Welcome back to a windswept Powerbuilt Tools International Raceway for what is probably the most prestigious title of all for the sidecars, save for the National Championship, and that is the New Zealand Grand Prix. And have a look at this. There's been drama because you'll see there's no rig number 2 there. Well, they are there, but they're probably around about a half a lap back because it was a standing start for most of the competitors, but because of a clutch problem, it's been a rolling start for the number 2 rig of Steve Braun and Denny Simonson. Now, can they get through the entire field and win the New Zealand Grand Prix? You're on board with them here as they come out of the big sweeper at the top end of the circuit. So they've got a big chase ahead of them. Number 2, Steve Braun and Denny Simonson. And look at the lead the rest of the pack are giving them as they head down into the plexiglass turn number 1 here at Christchurch. Really, it's 2 bites of the cherry. Meantime, at the front of the field, it's 27. That's Dave Annan and Warwick Demmix on the LCR, the Avon City Suzuki-sponsored machine. And right in behind them, it's bike number 79, and that is Graham Harris. Back on board here with the guys that are, well, acknowledged as the fastest combination in New Zealand. Just see if we can see them in the back of the shot. They've got a fair bit of work to do. Dave Annan making hay while the sun shines. Well, if only the sun would shine here at Powerbuilt Tools Raceway Ruapuna, it'd put a whole new complexion on the race. Good effort coming from rig number 79, though, Graham Harris and Colin Grace. The Harris Pipes, John Brooks Limited, Yamaha 1000. All these rigs powered by 1000cc machines. The top rig, the number 2, is a Suzuki, an LCR out of Switzerland. And Pete the Pirate's decided to abandon the LCR. Now he's on his Windle by the look of it. That's him just in behind number 33 there, Bill Newton and Paul Bolton. So he's had a change. He has the luxury of having 2 rigs on standby. He used this one, the Windle, the 1000cc machine, the R1 powered machine. Used that last year here at Christchurch, but it's his second choice really. So maybe some problems with the LCR after race number 2 for the sidecars. Good little scrap developing here. Bill Newton holding out Pete the Pirate. There he is on the Windle made out of the UK. Top 2 races, I guess, in Europe are the 2 brands, the LCR and the Windle. The Windle should have too much for the 33 down the straight. It does, and Bill Newton has to concede the spot. Meantime, what is happening with our fastest combination? Are they getting closer to the rest of the field? This is the New Zealand Grand Prix, so it's appreciably longer than the heat races, so they're not going to run out of track time. But are they going to run out of talent? Are they going to run out of speed? They had problems here last year. And inevitably, it ended up costing them the championship. That championship was won by Chris and Richie Lawrence. Unfortunately, they're not here. There is the combination I'm talking about. And look at the speed differences. They nail down the 33 and move up a spot. This is Steve Braun and Denny Simonson out of Wanganui. So they've moved through into 4th place now. Pete the Pirate, the next one they come upon. Pete Goodwin and Dion Whedon. Out of the hairpin they go, down into the infield, down into the carousel here at Powerbuilt Tools Raceway. I mentioned it before, Pete the Pirate, as he's known because he always wears a bandana before he puts his helmet on. Pete the Pirate's had plenty of experience, so he'll be able to hold these guys up for as long as possible, I would think. LCR on Windle, the Windle holding him out at the moment. Here comes the big Suzuki-sponsored rig, though. Peter Goodwin trying to make that Windle just as wide as possible and hold up what is going to be the inevitable. This time it is Braun with track position, but Goodwin holds them out as they go through the Jeff delivery turn up into Cockramness and now heading into the Dipper. And it's probably taken, well, Dion Whedon just gives them the nod and say, yeah, go through, boys. We know we're holding you up. You're going a lot quicker than we are. In and out of the Dipper they come. Down the short chute they'll go, and then there's only a couple ahead of them now. Well, it's been a mighty performance from the number 2 rig. Steve Braun and Denny Simonson have done some racing in Australia this past season, but their ambition is to do a couple of events up in Asia and up in Europe, eventually to do a full campaign in the World Sidecar Championship, and they've got the weapon to do it. Here is the race leader. This is Dave Annan and Warwick Demmix. Dave now living in Christchurch. He's sponsored by Avon City Suzuki. This is another LCR out of Switzerland, 1000cc Suzuki powered, a GSXR 1000 machine. 79 doing a fantastic job here from the South Island. And this is Graham Harris, and I think it's been something like 20 years since there's been a South Islander wearing the #1 plate in sidecars. You get the feeling it's going to be a little bit more of a weight for the mainlanders. Although I guess we could say that Dave Annan qualifies by default, now living in the South Island, of course. Sad to not see the big numbers that we saw last year here at Powerbuilt Tools Raceway. It is the opening of the season. It is an expensive exercise, not only in monetary terms, but also in time. But these guys are putting up a good of account of themselves at the moment. They're through in second place, Graham Harris on the Yamaha 1000 along with Colin Grace. But you just get the feeling it's only a matter of time before two NZ, Stephen Braun and Dennis Simonson, come through. They've got the time to do it. This is the New Zealand Grand Prix, so it's appreciably longer than the heat races. And it looks like there's starting to be a bit of a dry line here as these guys make it in and out of the dipper and head down the short chute, heading up for the big sweeper at the top end of the circuit. That's where you find Davey Annan and Warren Demmicks. Oh, and there is Braun and Simonson, and they're right on the 79 now, Graham Harris, and they've gone past, and you get the best seat in the house as you're riding with them down the long front straight here at Powerbuilt Tools Raceway. Now, we've told you before that the superbikes crack nearly 300 kilometres an hour. Well, these guys aren't very much slower when you consider they've got a fair bit of extra weight and an extra wheel to tow around this 3.44 kilometre circuit. That's a pretty good performance. Number 2, Steve Braun, Denny Simonson trying to chase down Dave Annan and Warwick Demmicks. There's some real camaraderie between the sidecar teams, certainly not on the track, but certainly off it. So I think this will be a pretty easy pass. And you see there, Warwick Demmicks just saying to Denny Simonson, come on, bring it on. Pass us if you can. And they can't for the moment as they head down into the carousel once again. Dave Annan, one of the characters in the New Zealand Sidecar Association, right in behind him, the man that charges hardest, that is Steve Braun out of Wanganui. Although both now registered with Motorcycling Canterbury. Annan just leaves the door just a shade open, but it's not enough to tempt Steve Braun. 27, Annan putting a pretty good account of himself here. Taking a bit of a defensive line and just letting the Braun-Simonson rig come to them. Now he drifts a little bit wide as they head down into the sweeper, trying to keep up all the speed in the world. LCR on LCR, Suzuki on Suzuki. Annan, number 27. 1, Steve Braun, I beg your pardon, 2, Steve Braun, 1 the previous year. The defending champions not here, the Lawrence brothers on their Yamaha from Auckland. Well, I just wonder if Braun is playing with Dave Annan as he works his way around the outside of him on the sweeper. Now it'll be no contest as he hits the throttle. Down the front straight they come, and the race leader, and remember that they gave the rest of the field the best part of half a lap, is the number 2 rig, and that's Steve Braun and Denny Simonson. And they have certainly put a bit of daylight between themselves and Davey Annan and Warwick Demmicks. So the last lap, they've made the pass at the opportune time, has the Suzuki combination, the champions 2 seasons ago. But mechanical disasters prevented them from repeating last year. They had to be content with the number 2 plate. I'm pretty sure they're out for blood this time round. They want that number 1 plate back from the Lawrence brothers, and they've got the perfect start here because they've won what some say is the most prestigious title in sidecar racing. The New Zealand Grand Prix falls to Stephen Braun and Denny Simonson out of Wanganui. In second place, it will be Dave Annan and Warren Demmicks, and in third place, it will be Graham Harris. Fourth place will go to Pete the Pirate, Peter Goodwin and Dion Whedon, and in fifth, it'll be Bill Newton and Paul Bolton. Steve, we saw the drama on the, well, in the pit lane. What happened?
Oh, mate, deja vu. No clutch. We jump in it to go out for race 3 and pull the clutch lever to the handlebars. Thought we were starting from pit lane, but they shoot us off and come around, and there was absolutely nothing on the start-finish line. So we thought, oh, that must be us. We're out of here. So it took us a few laps, and we managed to actually haul everyone in one by one, and mate, that was just an absolutely sterling ride, mate. It was bike, no clutch, still strong. Amazing.
He went out on intermediates. We decided to go out on slicks. Thought there'd be a dry line the whole way round. Yeah, not quite so much. Geez, fairly greasy up through the infield. There's standing water pretty much all the way around through the carousel. Just cost me probably about 4 or 5 seconds a lap.
So the podium presentation from Paul Stewart here to the winners of the New Zealand Grand Prix. That is Steve Braun and Denny Simonton.
In this month's Dirt Rider Down Under, we head to Aussie not only to give you a full report on the Kiwis' best ever assault on the 4-day Enduro, but also to check out Travis and his gang at the launch of the Nitro Circus live tour. We check out the machine that carries the ISDE #1 plate, the Gas 300 EC, and show you how best to secure your pride and joy. Plus there's an interview with Kiwi international star Jason Davis, as well as all the latest news from New Zealand and around the world. Next week on Showy Bike Rider TV, we'll have more from the 2010 National Road Race Championship.